Hi guys, so I am here for the July recap. Sorry that it's a little bit late. I was a little bit sick these past few days, so I couldn't make the recap, but I guess on Thursday works. So I'll talk a little bit about the questions that I got asked and the stocks that I traded, and I guess my mentality in the whole July. So first off, I feel like every single month is a bit different, and there's always something that is either surprising or just different. I am still at that stage of gaining experience in summer months, which this is pretty much the first month that I know what I'm doing, because last month it was still very experimenting what I liked, trying a lot of trades, making a lot of different like trades. So this month I kind these summer months I kind of already know what I'm good at, what I like to see, and the things that I'm not. So I still need a lot more experience in summer months, because last month I made 168,000, this month I made 60,000. So it is different because it was a lot slower. There was never a ticker that I got a chance to get comfortable with. Not totally, like AMC um in June. So it's this month it was just very slow for me, and the things that I like to trade. And sometimes the patterns that showed up, there's little volume, low liquidity for it to fit my criteria for big trades. So I'll talk about the tickers that I traded most, but first I would like to answer the questions that you guys asked on Twitter that I made. And though um they were all very good, so thank you guys for commenting, and I will try my best to answer all of the questions. So I will get started on them, and then I can talk a little bit about tickers and what I'm looking for in the months of August. So first question up is Mike, and I'm sorry if I don't know how to pronounce your names. I'll try my best. So, because I do know they always mess up my name, like Mariana, but no, it's Mariana. So it's I don't want to mess up your name because I know how it feels. So it's if I spell it wrong, you can leave a comment or whatever you want, but I'll try my best. So the first one is hearing more about position sizing, how you scale into trades, and what percent of account you use for the entries. So my position sizing is it's not a set amount. I'm not going into a trade thinking, okay, this is the exact amount that I'm going to use. It's all about how comfortable I am and how I'm doing on the day. If I already had some good trades, then maybe that will influence also in how I position size the next time, and also how comfortable I am with the pattern that I'm looking at and how much I have already traded the ticker. So it's if it's already a former runner and it's overextended and then it's a panic dip buy with good volume, no bad news, then I will go in bigger than I would on, let's say, a breakout that has no news and hasn't consolidated enough for it to make the next big move. So it all depends on the patterns, and all of that comes from the practice. The more aggressive I get, the more I am comfortable, and I've already traded this pattern a lot of times before. So that is how I position size and how I scale into trade. So that's kind of the same thing, whether it's a panic dip buy. Well, usually I like to get the bottom of the panic. So I will try my best to have all the size filled at the bottom. But if it's, let's say, a breakout, I don't usually tend to add that much, because I do because I like taking the one entry that will prove to me right away that it is right. But when I do add, it's when my risk is better. So if one time my risk is low of day, then maybe there is a higher low and I switch it to the higher low so I can add. But switching my risk, that's the only way I could scale up. In what percent of account? Again, first thing as the first question, my position sizing and percent of account is mostly important on the pattern that I am trading. That's what I mostly base it off of, and how comfortable I am, how I'm doing on the month, and the type of environment that is shown, because the environment is very important. If OTCs are very hot, then I like to trade them more often than when Nasdaqs are hot, which is during the summer. And I haven't traded a lot of Nasdaqs, but if like just find out what you're comfortable with, and then you can scale into winners when you know what works for you. So next up we have AJ. Hey Mari, is it worth to battle current unpredictability in the market, or is it better to wait until patterns start to work? So I think that for me, not battling the market, I think that is 100% the answer that I would give, because it's not like, it's definitely like you have to wait for the patterns, and meanwhile like you build the consistency and knowledge. So that's what kind of like I've been doing. I built the most in December, January, and February, but now around these months I'm trying to build a consistency. So it's like if you see here I have 2000 day, 2500, 2000, 2000. I have a $5,000 week, $11,000 week, like $9,000 week, and a red week, which is probably my red week in a very long time. So it's like right now I'm trying to build the consistency, but I am still trying to show up as much as I can for when the market is my market. Then I'm not cold. Like I still can trade it because I know that I've been trading it for this long time, and also I am still gaining the experience and I'm learning new things every single day because no month is the same. But I do think not fighting it is good, because if you like start to fight, like the market doesn't care, and maybe you've heard it a lot in almost like every single video, like the market does not care whether or not you're right or wrong. It would take your money. So it's like I don't want to give away my money because I know that I tried hard for it. So it's like avoiding these losses, avoiding this emotional um like you don't need to be emotional. It's like if it's unnecessary and you can avoid it, try to avoid it the most that you can. And meanwhile, build the consistency, build the experience, build the knowledge, the just practice, and that'll only like keep getting better if you do that. And then once you're comfortable, then it's time for you to size up. But before that, it's like no, just take your singles and just take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Like, am I going to get in trouble here or not? And even though you may think, oh yeah, well now panic dip buys aren't working, I've heard other traders say like they thought panic dip buys were not going to work anymore, and then they started to work perfectly this year. So it's like they will come back, but there are times, there are cycles, and it's only up to us to recognize when it is your cycle. I hope that answers that. Okay, next one is Johnny. Okay, so these are a few questions. So, what do you see in a daily multi-day breakout to put the ticker as a play? So I'll answer this one first. I think a good example would be, let me just go to Thinkorswim. Okay, so for a multi-day breakout, I think a good example, TXTM, which is very recent. This is a very recent breakout. And I thought this was very nice on the daily, and this is why. So what I like to see is like, I like to see all frameworks that work together. So it's like this daily is already very clean. You can see breakout is at 4.9. So if it gets over 4.9, it most likely will get over the round number 5. So now how does it like react before it gets there? It's like, well, now you can go to another time frame. So let's look at the 5-day, 5-minute, which I thought was very clean also. Actually, let's go to the 10-15. Okay, so you can see that like it shows how it consolidated for almost like 5 days under it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5th day. So like and then if you go on to like the minute chart right here, then it shows me like I could take the position over high day. And at the breakout, since like all the morning it showed good strength, then I could take it because it fits all time frames. And no, I don't usually trade sub pennies, but I really like this chart because that is something that I would be looking for. It's like good volume, good chart, and good consolidation below it is very important, because if it just goes straight through the breakout, maybe if it didn't have all of these days of consolidation, and maybe like on this day had like maybe on this day just like went through the breakout, maybe I wouldn't have gotten it because it didn't really prove to me that I wanted to wait. It just pretty much went through it right away. So it's not really like my favorite one. It wouldn't be like an A plus trade. So let's go to, yeah, that is one. NSAV is also another good one, which I actually traded this one a few times, mostly on some morning strength, but here you can see a perfect breakout. Here was the double top. I think this one is even more perfect than TXTM because it is a good price range that I am comfortable with. It has good volume, and it had a double top also. So you see how many days it consolidated. Here it built the big level. It's like it's a big level. So you want it to get over that big level, but you want it to breathe before it gets there, because if it doesn't breathe, it may not continue. It's like if it just kept going over here and it didn't have all of these days, then maybe I would be more hesitant, because maybe just like doesn't have like enough strength, because it didn't like stay and breathe. And this was another good one also. Now we can, yeah, those would be like the two multi-day breakouts. So good volume, for it to match in all time frames, good consolidation, maybe news, and a good entry with a good risk is what I look for. How many tickers do you usually trade at a time? I usually trade like one or two, maybe like three max, but not really. Like mostly maybe like one or two, because I like to it's like how do you say it? It's like quality over quantity. So you don't want to have like 10 stocks that are giving you like very little edge. It's no, you'd rather have one or two very good ones. How do you cut losses? So I use a limit order, and like it depends what I'm in, but usually I like to feel right as soon as I enter, and if not, I just cut and I can get a better price. So it's like if it's not showing, if it's not budging right away, because I know that I am trading the most volatile hours from 9:30 to 10:30, and then from 3 to 4. So I am trying to get the best risk as possible, but I don't typically like for it to even get to my risk. It's like if I'm buying a breakout or if I'm buying a panic to buy, I do want it to confirm right away, because it is on the very volatile hours where it should be budging. It should want to make the move right away if I get the right entry. And if not, I just think in my head like there will always be a better entry. Like you can just cut and re-enter without having to go through all of that emotional kind of reaction, because that takes away from your next trade. It's like if you're already kind of like burnt from the first trade, then the second trade is not going to be as good as you want it to be. But if you cut it and then you just re-enter, the second one could be just as good as you thought the first one would be, if that makes sense. But I, like my whole trading career, I've kind of liked to cut sooner than later, because when I don't, it could, it couldn't like be that good. Do you always find one of your setup every single day? No, definitely not. There's cycles. So like for example, these last few months, like it's been tough to find my setups for OTC mainly, such as like panic dip buys, for screen days, or follow through on breakouts. So I gotta wait for when the market is there and when the opportunity is there. And here and there, they will also be good tickers, good charts like NSAP, DPLS. There will be the ones that stand out. So being prepared for those is very important, and knowing that there could be one, two, maybe five, but around the hot market, there will be a ton every single day. So it's like right now, just build the consistency and realize when those trades are there, you want to do better than your normal like day, and just stay like as consistent as possible until you find the pattern. Next will be Zopa. So maybe I definitely said that wrong, but sorry. Can you tell us please, how did you grow a small account so quickly in 2 years to 1 million? So I took a few steps, but again, it is different for everybody, and the way that you learn is very different. Like, it is knowing yourself, knowing your personality, and after you learn all of the fundamentals from videos, from video lessons, from posts, then it's time for you to put them into yourself. It's like, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. You have to weed out and be very conscious of what you're good at and what you're not. So it's like, what I did, well, in the beginning, it was like start very small. I had a tweet that I made a trade on OZSC. In the first few months that I started trading, it was $38, and then like 6 months later, it was like 16,000. So very small and consistent amount, just while you start trading and practicing and getting your hands on what you're trying to learn. And then it's try the patterns while you're studying. So it's like you're studying, but now you're trying them after you're learning the fundamentals, and then you find the ones that works for you. So it's like I found the one that worked for me, and I traded a lot of times. So it took me 1,000 trades, and those 1,000 trades, I made 100,000. So in those 1,000 trades, that was the process where it's like you learn your strategies and you try to trade the most that you can with all of different ones. And then suddenly one just clicks. One just makes you feel comfortable. And once you find that pattern, you realize when the market is good for it. And then you start sizing up when you're ready, when you feel comfortable, and when you've already traded them the most that you can. It's like you close your eyes and you already like can imagine how you will trade it. And then you find when it is hot, maybe NASDAQ longs for summer, or maybe it's OTCs for the winter, or whenever it is hot, you just need to be quick to recognize and like take the opportunity as best as you can. But again, everything is very different. It may not be 2 years, it may be 3, it may be 4, but just remember that whatever it is, however long it is, there's a potential of a lot more. It's like if you just take maybe 3-4 years of your life, and then you can have 40, 50, 60 years potential. It's like it's worth it. Every single time is worth it. Don't try to rush the process, because yes, some people may get it sooner, but also you want to build the best foundation you can for yourself. And the only way to do that is to take good time, the time that you need, because it's not like a get rich quick. Okay, hustle hard investing. So do you use any indicators for your charts? VWAP, moving average, RSI. There are a lot of indicators, but I only use VWAP. That's it. And like I use VWAP, but I'm not going to base off like any trades off of it. It gives me an idea of like where the buyers and sellers are. Like if the price is like over VWAP, buyers are in control, and vice versa. So it just gives me an idea, like a guide, kind of like level 2. It gives me guides, but I'm not going to say, okay, this, if it's over VWAP, I'm going to buy. No, there's a lot more things that come into it, but that's the only indicator I use. So settler. So sizing appropriately and risk management. So Well, there's a lot of things that could come into it. I think I already mentioned a little bit about sizing, and it all depends on how comfortable I am with the pattern. In risk management, also, again, I already talked about how I take my losses. So I like to not get emotional over trade. So instead, I like to cut quick and re-enter if I can. And the keeping like the risk is tight for a small account, like keep growing as your account keeps growing. Like you start small, then you build up and you build up and you build up. The same happens with risk management. It's like you start with a certain amount, keep building, keep building. So it all comes with the practice and the experience that you're getting. And but I still like to keep my losses as low as possible because that will only make my next trade better. Okay, Captain Jack Sparrow. What is the main factor in your scanner? Thank you. So the main look at my scanner is like 10 million volume, up 10% on the day with the setup I like. So those are like the main three. But at the end of the day, if I like the chart, like I will treat it even if it's like a little bit illiquid, but I just like the looks of it. So I keep my scanner very, very simple, and it's just like the ones that are hot on the day, the top percent gainers, and then I weed off the charts that I like. If it's the framework, like panic dip buy, breakout, first red day, first green day, those are the ones that I will prefer over others. And then I will trade it. But first, it starts with the gainers or former runners. And then I will move on and make the trade plan if I like the chart. Okay, Bigid 674. So here are my questions. Are you using mental or hard stop loss? So I have most of the time used mental stop losses. I'm usually like I like to be very quick to cut. So I am a firm believer that if like my entry is not good enough and it's not at the right spot, a spot I will cut and just like get a better entry. So I'm quick to sell if it's not going in my favor, and just re-enter. Whereas a hard stop, it would prevent like scratch trades. But like for my personality, I prefer to cut various times to have rather than having one set stop loss, because like I just like to play around with the chart and just see what is it showing me and how can I get the best trade that I can. So what was your biggest loss and how did you recover? My biggest loss, pretty sure that it was, I think it was in March, and also I already talked about it in one of my recaps, and I was very detailed about it, so I will link it down below. My biggest loss, like, it was on IMMP, and if you would like to watch it, I go over everything that I did wrong and how I got back to the basics. So that day I'm pretty sure the next day I took like the next day off and just refocused coming to like the next week, not trying to make it back. I'm not trying to make it back. I'm just trying to build up my confidence again. The only way to do that is to get your consistency back and use smaller size and just get back on track. It's like you just went off track for a little, but now you're trying to come back into the path that you were in. And it's not trying to make it back because you could have another big loss doing that. So being very meticulous on what you trade next and then going off from there, but not swinging for the fences, like being very, very slow and taking your time to get it back. And eventually you will, because every single trader has a big loss. Every single trader has a bad month, bad week, but eventually you'll get your grooves back. But first you need to get back to the basics and realize that it's okay to be wrong, and you were wrong. So now all it takes is for you to gain your confidence back. How many hours do you monitor a trade per day? Um, well, I would say that I am in a trade for a few, like, it depends on the pattern, but from like 2 minutes to like a day. Maybe I'll swing if it's a breakout or a first screen day, but or maybe I'll sell very soon, like 2 minutes or a minute if it's a panic to buy. Not longer than like 2 days because I don't swing for more than like one day. How do you keep yourself to be disciplined? So I think being disciplined can come from like a lot of things. And maybe sometimes like such as like your life outside of trading and your schedule, it's like going into the trading day and what your routine looks like. For me, being the most disciplined outside of trading can have a big impact in your trading because it's like you're having that same consistency, not just in your trading but also in your life. It can be a lot smoother of a path. And writing down sticky notes, maybe that helps also to be disciplined. It's like if you know you're making one mistake, writing it down somewhere could be very beneficial. Okay, next. I have the same question. Seems your sympositions are very tight. How are you managing the stops? Are these set or are you exiting manually? I'm exiting manually. I've already talked about it a little bit before, but everything is mostly manual and being as quick as I can. As I would set stops, you would face slippage. Yeah, well, with OTCs, I think slippage is something that you always have to account for. It's like you already know that you may take a lot of slippage, and that's just something you have to be okay with. Spreads with market fills. So how you are doing this would be insightful. Being as quick as you can is important to get a good fill, but sometimes you don't fill. So it's like that slippage accounts for what you're trading. If you're trading OTCs, it's like you should already kind of like reset yourself and know that you could take some and being okay with it. Which patterns are you using in this low market? How to deal with it? So in this market, like I'm mostly trying to be consistent, like 1 to 2K days. I'll definitely take like here and there. There's some good ones, so I will be more than happy to size up. Other than that, it's just coming into the day and not thinking I'm gonna make money, but more of like how will I not lose it? Because if it's slow, I don't want to take a setback. Instead, I want to have a continuous slow uptrend instead of having setback and then being already emotional about, oh God, now I need to make it back. No, instead, it's like being very consistent and trying to avoid a big loss. Next. Jim C, what is your scanning system? Well, it's like 10 million volume, 10% on the day, news, and a good chart. I already talked a little bit about it. How long are you in your trades? I am mostly a day trader, so for a few minutes, few hours, and here and there swing long on an OTC breakout overnight. But other than that, that's like the most. Are you swing trade or just day trading? I am mostly day trading, but again, I will take some first green days and breakouts overnight. How many stocks are you in the moment? I do have like a few stocks that I'm in, but it's not like I'm actively day trading them. It's like I'm waiting for more news and I'm waiting for like a few months. So it's like it's just very little. I'm not day trading them or anything. What DVD or video had the most impact on your trading? So I would say all of Tim Sykes' DVDs, the framework since it has a foundation, and trading tickers that shows you the examples. I think are two of my favorite. You like knowing the fundamentals and then building the foundation and then going into trading tickers to find the tickers, like to find the examples on how to trade them. Can you add a photo of your desktop? My desktop is 3 screens, so it's not that big, but I have one with stocks, other with chat rooms, and the other one with order entries. So that's how I like to keep it organized. Spreadsheets, daily notes, or how to track trades. The way that I track trades, I like to keep it simple. I'll talk a little bit about this later on. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's go to kiratrade. So first of all, congratulations, thank you. I would like to ask you some questions if you have the kindness and time to answer them. I definitely do. So first, you trade only in session or in pre-market and aftermarket? Well, I trade mostly all after 9:30 as pre-market. It could have news, like some news could come out. There's less volume and less predictability, so I like to see the pre-market action and get an idea for what my plan would be. If it's gapping up, if it's gapping down, if it's gapping normal, what will I do? And I base off, like I start to kind of think of what I want to do at 9:30, 9:40, 9:50 based on which way it's gapping or how it's looking pre-market, but not trade it. Do you close all operations from one day to the next? No, sometimes if I swing, it's like a first green day and a breakout, but most likely the next day I am out by the morning into morning strength. Okay, let's go to Fabian. Morning panics. So, morning panics, I need like lots of extensions. So I'll go with this on this day when it went to 2. So it went to 2. That was like, it was nice. It was already up from like 8, from like the 7. So good volume and ideally not like bad news on it. So this was the day that it had a very good panic, and then the next day it also had 2 very good panics. Let's go and see. Oh, great. Sorry. Okay. Let's go and see and talk a little bit about that day. Okay, so let's go and see if it can show me that day. Well, here are the 2 panic days. And as you can see, the cleanness of this panic is exactly what I want to look for. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 straight red candles from almost 20 to 12. And that was one of my favorites. I think if you can look back on those days on DPLS, that could be good. But yeah, that's what I look for. The extension, the good volume, the clean red candles, and the good turn and a good entry. Okay. Entry in long positions. So, well, I mean, that is a big topic, but deciding to trade it, I always think that you can always trade along, but just choose the best risk possible. What is the best risk that you can get? And you can always go long as long as you can find the risk that you're comfortable with. Reading tape. So reading tape, like what I tell you may not be the same thing that you will see. Tape reading is just from practice. So it's watching it on demand and watching how everything reacts, like finding, like you looking at the tape and seeing what you see, what you like to see, what you don't like to see, where there's strength, when there's weakness, and that just comes from watching it over and over and over again. Scanners, 10 million volume, 10% on the day with news and a good chart. Timing, being very quick. So one thing that I like to do is have my limit order set for when it's about to go. So maybe if it's building a tight channel around $2 and it's still not over $2, but I like to set it, and in 30 minutes if it's looking like it's gonna go through $2, I'm already ready, so I can buy those $2 before and be quicker, having the best time possible. And risk, again, I've already talked about this. If you can refer back, just risking as little as you can. Okay. Can you please talk about reversals, Shirley? Yeah, so for the reversals, like I'm looking for it to be down more than one red day on the daily, also for good volume and a former runner only. Because those are the ones that I've already treated before, but there's also more eyes on them and they respect the framework a lot more. And then to like go get my entry, I'm looking for the stock to like do something different, such as hold green, LCTN, LTCN. Okay, this was the one that had a good first green day the other day. Right here. So this is the first green day I'm talking about. And it was down like 3 days in a row. From 26 all the way down to 12. So I was looking for that reversal. Now, what is something that it didn't do before? Well, here it made new lows. It had a panic. Panic made new lows. Panic, but it held a little, and it held overview up, which is, it hasn't done it in the past. So it's like, oh yeah, what's it going to do the next day? Well, the next day it gapped up, and you already saw that it's kind of holding, not making a new low, which is something that it didn't do the past 3 days. Now what is it doing? It dipped, then it held, then that's already interesting enough. Now, over high day, you may think, okay, well, I can get a 1490 average and risk 1430, which is not bad at all. And then you're looking for that big reversal. So, whoops, I dropped something. Now you're looking for that big reversal, and it got over high day, it dipped, held green, so that's perfect. That was literally perfect. Now it's just timing how long you will be in it. You don't have to be for long. It's like you could take this morning strength and be done with it. Whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, next one is Gene. Which pattern do you trade that has the highest percentage of working in your favor? So I am a big panic dip buyer. So most of them work, but only like when they are clean and good. Like if it's not, it's going to be choppy and like bake out a lot. So those are the ones that I like to avoid. The choppy ones are not fun, but the ones that do work very well, they're very high odds. Like I don't think I have even taken those big of losses, unless they become like choppy and low volume, and those are the ones that could get me into trouble. Okay, do you only trade stocks with a minimum daily volume? Well, I think 10 million, but I also would take others that maybe are less than that, but it doesn't typically happen. And like that's pretty much all I ask. It's pretty basic, same as NASDAQ is OTC. I want the chart to be very nice, to be very good looking, to follow the patterns that I'm typically trading. If not, I don't really want to trade it even if it has good volume because it's just not my cup of tea. What is your best temporality for scalping? If we're talking about like while I'm day trading, well, when I'm trying to build the watch list, I'm looking at all time frames. I'm looking at the daily, at the 5 day, 5 minute. I'm looking at the max. I'm looking at every single time frame. But if we're talking about like day trading, I'm looking at just the 1 day, 1 minute. Just because I wanna really focus in on the ticks. Every single tick matters. It's like every single order that goes through the time and sales matters because they all matter because it all builds up to your trade. Everything just kind of like comes together into your trade. So everything is important to look at, and I think that the closer that I get to the trade, the better. What are you looking for pre-market? I am looking for like if I'm long overnight, if I'm long any stock, I'm looking for a gap up, and since I'm mainly an OTC trader, I scan the night before for like potential longs or shorts. So the next day I would look at which way they're looking to gap and then make a plan from there. It's like if I'm looking for a long or if I'm already long overnight, I'd like to see I'd like to see it gap up, and if I'm looking for a short, I like to see it either gap down or see how it reacts to open. But I like to see the gap ups, and that's about it. I don't really like to trade pre-market as it could just like get me emotional for like the whole day. Like I will have 9:30 to 4 to trade, so I'm not gonna rush in and trade like 2 hours before. Could DRNG continue to run next month? Maybe. We don't know. We don't know anything, but as we see, DRNG is not doing that good. I'm pretty sure there was like a bad tweet released about it. So, yeah. Okay. Let's go to Kim's question. Do you take float into consideration when you're trading a listed stock? Do you size differently if the float is really small? So, I don't typically look at the float that much. But let's say like Neuro, I traded the other day, and that has like 3 million flows. So you can already tell that in like one candle, it could go the opposite direction real quick. So I have noticed like being quicker and reacting with smaller floats is important to lock in gains because they can easily vanish in like one candle and you don't have enough time to like react. So knowing the flow, I guess, is beneficial for NASDAQs, maybe more than OTCs. But I have thought like maybe like low flow locking gains like a little bit sooner because the moves are very sporadic at times. Okay. What's your favorite, most consistent pattern trade? Panicked up buys, and they haven't been very hot lately, so I couldn't tell you right now because it's just been very consistent for me. How much are you up in 2021? Let's look at my profit chart. In 2021, from January 1st to today, 1,200,000. And last year I didn't make that much. So it's like this year is mostly from January and February that those were my best months because the market was very high and I was able to capitalize on the pattern that I am comfortable with. Hi Mariana. Please could you tell us through your Excel spreadsheet? Well, you're pretty much looking at it. It's not like I have a lot of I like to keep it very simple. What trader view scanner settings are best for breakouts? I've already talked about this one, so it's the way that the chart looks and the volume in the news. And then I just base my risk off of it. But there was one question that I was asked. Let me look for it. Um, Here, you can refer back to what do you see in daily multi-day breakout to put the ticker as play. You could ask. You could see. Okay. Long maybe BTBT. That is a BTC. Yeah, I mean BTBT, BTC. So they follow each other. Now I'll talk about LCLP. I think that's what you mean. LCLP. Let's look at the. Okay, so LCLP, well, OTC runner, but I don't see like much follow through. Like when it broke out once again, and so here on these 2 days, you can see, okay, this is a great example because I was talking about the breakouts that I like to buy are the ones that consolidate a few days before making its move. As you can see, this one, it set high at 57. Then it almost gave half of it back. And then it only took like almost 1 to 2 days to make it all back. So it pretty much sprinted to the breakout. This isn't a breakout that I want to buy. This is a great example actually because I was talking about NSAV and DPLS, how they held well. They held maybe like 5, 6 days before breaking out. That caused a big move because they had a chance to breathe. Except this one, it pretty much sprinted. It had no chance to breathe, and that's why I didn't like it. I probably never traded it because it never really had time to kind of like figure out its plan. Like, yeah, I want to break out, but also I need time to breathe, and never got a chance to breathe. Except like TXTM, DPLS, they held very well before making the big move. And DPLS, again, this, like, I traded this one just the days of the panic were my best ones. Like, I did trade them the other days, but I think the best ones were the ones where it panicked and then it panicked again. And this first green day was very nice. I think that this is also a good example of the reversal. Down from 2 and then the next day it gaps up. So pre-market, somebody asked me what I do pre-market. Well, what I'm doing is I am gathering the information. It's gapping up. It's down from 2 and it's also former runner. It's already moved in the past. I've already traded before. It's gapping up and is showing strength right in the morning. So what am I going to do? I want to trade it for the reversal because it's already been down enough for me to want to buy it. So that is a very great example. These 3 days are my favorite. If you can look back on demand, that's perfect. Now let's go to Mariah's. I haven't responded because I know there's like a few of Mariah's questions. Okay, so here's the first one. How long did you stay 1,000 investing into a trade? Did you only put 1,000 into a trade all the way up till you reached 100,000? Well, there were obviously like the instances where I didn't just do 1,000, but I tried my best to do 1,000 because I just wanted to get experience and I knew that I may be wrong. So it's like I'm trying like, so yeah, I started with like a small amount and then you build yourself up, but I tried my best for the first 8 months that I started to trade. Next one. Could you please mention, talk about knowledge? I think a lot. A lot can be learned from 1,000 trades. It's like the more practice that you can get, the better it will get because there's no other way that you could pretty much learn anything. Anything that whatever you want to do, there is almost no way that you can learn everything without practice. Like oh yeah, I'm just gonna go the first time, second time, third time, 100 times doing it perfect. No, you need practice and you need to make mistakes. How much knowledge? How much knowledge? Yeah, so it's like I started with not knowing anything to starting to trade consistently to using small size, then making $100, then losing some also like 50 and gaining experience and making 100,000. It's like it goes from newbie to knowing a little bit. Talk about your risk tolerance. I've already talked about this one if you can refer to like another one, but it's like um I like to have my entry kind of like already show me that I'm doing it right, and if not, maybe cut and re-enter, and if not, I won't have a big risk because most of the time like it may not work in my favor. How do you commit to getting out and not letting FOMO get in? Just realizing that the market does not care. So it's like write on a sticky note. I can always get a better entry because you can. It's like you can always get a better entry. And it doesn't matter. Like if you're wrong, well, you're wrong. It's like you need to take it as it is because um it will only be more emotional for you. Like you are the only one that is not being benefited because the market, like it won't be hurt. Um Other people they won't be hurt. Like you will be the one that has to deal with your loss. So it's like just being very conservative can be very helpful while building an account because you're just starting out. Is that good? I think it is. Well, those were very good questions. Thank you guys for asking. I think this is probably going to be like my longest recap, but I'm glad that I was able to answer some of your questions. And now I'll talk a little bit like in August. What I want to do in August is keep up building the consistency. And then when the trades are there, be able to take them when they're there. So just keeping up the same mentality that I can make 1,000 to 2,000 and that will all compound into 100,000, 200,000. Instead of losing big and getting emotional and then losing what I made the past few months, it's not worth it. So being okay with 1 to 2K, and then suddenly there comes those tickers that you get comfortable with. There comes those months that you get comfortable with. And those are the ones that really matter because the rest is practice. So yeah, I'll see you guys for the August recap in like 26 days. Thanks all.